another edition of Breakfast Time with Waffle and Richard. And Waffle, you've had a great week and a great weekend because, like we talked about, Home Field Apparel dropped the South Carolina line. I hate to say it, it's beautiful.
It is good. I was very impressed. I like it a lot, man. I'm excited to get some stuff.
Yeah, there's this one, I think the Forever to Thee sweater they dropped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very nice.
The fighting Gamecock logo with like the angry chicken on it, and then it's on a hoodie and a shirt. That's my favorite one. I cannot wait to get that one.
Yeah, the hoodie's already sold out. I just looked on the website. That's crazy. They were third highest Big News Saturday ever, which is insane.
That's huge. Only behind, what was it, Florida and
Florida and Georgia, I believe.
Yeah, Florida and Georgia, I think is what it was.
Yeah. And then this week it's NC State, so home field's attacking my character this weekend.
They are attacking you, but I think the NC State drop's going to be beautiful.
It probably is
so good. If you put the old Wolfpack, like the Wolf logo on put it on everything.
I love it. Yeah,
put Tuffy on everything, man.
Yeah, I know it's basketball related, and of course Jim Valvano, K.L. But come on, Clemson, Trevor Booker, Tree Rollins, Larry Nance, got that.
Terrence Oglesby, we said last week, like there's players on this
Tanner
team.
Smith, come on.
Yeah, you can't forget Tanner Smith.
Just put Oliver Purnell on a shirt and I'll buy it.
Please, I would honestly buy that.
They used to have those when he was coach there. Oliver Purnell's posse. It was just a giant picture of Purnell's face on there, and I really wanted one.
Shout out to Connor Pedersen, Coach Pedersen from Landers' son, who's a manager for men's basketball team. If they put a shirt with his face on it, I will wear it every single day. Even if it's orange, even if it says Clemson on it, I will wear it every day.
Connor, get that NIL deal, Tiger Town Graphics.
Please.
Oh, man. But no, it's a great drop. Of course, all your shirts really good. Home Field Apparel, sponsor us, please sponsor us. We'll gladly take that. Speaking of sponsorships, thanks to y'all listening and supporting the show, we are eligible for ads and sponsorships via Anchor. So there's going to be a link available in the description of this episode if you're listening on Spotify or Anchor, or on our Facebook page, which is Breakfast Time Waffle and Richard. Follow that. Or on Twitter at RNM1996. Where you can donate to the link, maybe like $1 a month, $4 a month, or something like that, whatever you decide to do. And that money goes to your boys for doing this, which would be pretty cool to see if we get your support for that. So that's just a little podcast business there. May set up some way to give people some shouts out if we can see like supporters or something like that on the episode. So that's a little bit of business there. Now we'll roll in. Of course, it is Super Bowl weekend. Bengals and the Rams inside of a Rams home game. Basically, it's at stadium again. Second straight year it's been a home game. We'll talk about the game, but of course, it was a really good year of football. Wow.
It was
insane NFL. Every week at plays go down to the wire. Of course, the last 6 games of the season all were walk-off wins. And so, are mostly walk-off wins. The Rams won with a little bit of time left on the clock last week in the NFC, or 2 weeks ago in the NFC Championship. But still, the last 6 games I feel like were insanely good. There was a lot of insane talent. A lot of players, took steps forward. Some players took steps back. And we're going to kind of talk about them here and give kind of our superlative awards. And we'll start off with one I think is pretty easy to pick out, or one we talk about a lot. We'll start off with Coach of the Year. And, there were a lot of good coaches in the NFL. A lot of coaches got fired, decided to retire. But there were some coaches who had to face a lot of challenges this year. And I think the Coach of the Year, you can go through it all. Regardless of how the season ended, I still think Mike Vrabel is your Coach of the Year, because Tennessee Titans, I think, 91 players you said they had have at some point in the year on their roster. So many injuries. I was Derrick Henry for most of the season, and the Titans still earned the 1 seed in the playoffs. Again, the way it ended, not the way they wanted to end. They lost in the divisional round to the Bengals, but still a great job to keep that team together when you had Tannehill having to throw to God knows who each week. And you're having to piece that team together with duct tape and hope at times. And you get the 1 seed in the AFC. And that's just a big job on Mike Vrabel and his staff. I saw he got an extension just recently, which is huge for the Titans to go ahead and lock him in for the near future. But yeah, Mike Vrabel, I think 100% has got to be your coach of the year in the NFL. Some of the nominees, I think, got to go with, of course, I think Sean McVay with the Rams is also up there. He looked pretty good this year. I think coach for the Bengals, and I'm like
Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor, I think you got to go with him too, because they were able to, there were the negatives, of course, offensive line, all that, but they will turn Joe Burrow and that offense into something special for sure this year. And then, you know what? Brian Flores, he should still get it, even though he's no longer coaching with the team. There's a whole lot of things going on with him right now. But,
yeah,
the fact that he turned the Dolphins around from being just horrible to almost making the playoffs, I think that deserves it. But, yeah, Mike Vrabel, I think, for sure, is the guy I'd pick for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree. I've said it all year, and I think he is so deserving of Coach of the Year just because of with everything that Tennessee had to deal with all the injuries, and just not even just the injuries, just overhauling the defensive personnel, from last year to this year. Like, they realized that, there was a problem and the defense was bad, and they addressed what they needed to do, brought in Jim Schwartz to help out with Shane Bowen in the defense, and then got rid of a lot of guys who, were household names. If you're a Tennessee Titan fan, Malcolm Butler, Kenny Vaccaro, guys that have been around, been a part of that team that made it to the AFC Championship in 2019, and had to cut ties with them. And they brought in all the necessary pieces, whether it be Janoris Jenkins and, elevating Christian Fulton up to cornerback one. Kevin Byard got back to doing his thing, and then giving Amani Hooker the starting strong safety spot. So, I think it's a fantastic job by Mike Vrabel all year, not only just using 91 players, getting them to the 1 seed, winning the division again, having sweeping teams like the Colts, and then going through the gauntlet of the schedule, playing the Rams, Chiefs, Bills, Saints, rattling off all these wins in the middle of the year. Regardless of how it ended, I think you have to give it to Mike Vrabel. But yeah, despite not even with the playoff success that the Bengals have had, Zach Taylor definitely deserves strong consideration just for having them win the AFC North.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all the props to the Bengals. So they had a really, really good year. Joe Burrow's second year, obviously he showed out. He's becoming a superstar before our eyes, and he can, submit that claim pretty effectively with a win on Sunday night against the Rams in LA in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Bengals did a heck of a job. Brian Flores too. I want to give a shout out to just the Oakland Raiders in general.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders had to deal with a ton, obviously Gruden and everything that happened with him and him getting axed in the middle of the year. But then what's his name? Rich Bisaccia coming in and taking over that Raiders team, and
without Henry Ruggs, their best receiver, or
correct,
probably going to be their best receiver coming out,
right? And still getting them to the playoffs, and giving Vegas some hope. Yeah. And he kind of got the short end of the stick too. Mm-hmm. And I think he's found his way up to Green Bay.
I think he's off square
something like that in Green Bay. But good for him. He deserves a lot of credit as well for keeping the Raiders, level-headed and keeping their eyes set on making the playoffs, which they did.
Yeah, and also classy move. He knew. Hey, I think he knew he was probably not going to get the head coaching job, but he wrote a note to every single player and staff member for the Raiders after the playoff game. That's just a classy move. Guy that seems like a great coach, great person. Hopefully, he gets another chance at a head coaching job in the NFL, maybe in college too. Hopefully, he does, because hopefully he does some good things, which probably an interesting new look for the Packers next year. But we'll have to see about that. Moving on to the players, let's look kind of, players improve, players go up and down this year. Let's look first the most disappointing player of the year. Some of the player who had a lot of high stock maybe early in the season and kind of fell apart. I've kind of got two, and I've got one just real quick. Sam Darnold, basically because the way he started off so strong, and of course we talked about how Packers were so disappointing last year or this year. 3-0, go to Dallas, you play a good Dallas team that got to the playoffs, and you play them tough. You think, oh, this team, is going to stay with it, and then they finished the year, finished 5-12 in the season, and Sam Darnold ended up getting the bench. Questions about what Matt Rule was doing with him, because he would have times he'd look good, and it's like, okay, let's throw Cam Newton in there, and then the offense would just stop. So there's some coaching things there, but also I don't know if Sam Darnold's going to ever be the guy. He got picked over Josh Allen. You got to remember that. It was the debate where him and Josh Allen was better. And I get Josh Allen's one of those rare cases of a quarterback just getting it real quick and taking off at the light speed. But man, just Sam Darnold, I feel like hasn't shown much of an improvement. And when he started off so great and then just fell apart toward the end. And now for the Panthers, you're kind of in a weird spot this year because there's really not a whole lot of great quarterbacks in this draft class. And unless you can go out, unless you are willing to spend the money to go out and try to get Aaron Rodgers, do you try to get Teddy Bridgewater back? Who do you try to go get if you're trying to get some free agents? But I think Sam Darnold for sure. And another player, I think Lamar Jackson, just because he was so banged up this year. I know some of that's not his fault, but it's kind of one of those you come to question because he has gotten hurt a lot in his career, and you kind of expect him to go out and kind of build some of that toughness or be able to have his body continue to build. It reminds me a lot of how RG3 was when he played. The injuries just kind of took their toll on him, and he had to end up retiring. And so hopefully that doesn't happen to Lamar Jackson, because I think he's legit one of the best quarterbacks. I can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he was just so banged up this year. And it cost the Ravens games because, respect to Tyler Huntley, he went out there and played his heart out. And he was a good quarterback, but that took away an element of this team that just was missing. And that, when you have the Bengals who are so good, the Steelers still had a good defense, and the Browns who were still pretty solid for most of the year, it just kind of messed with that flow of that team. And then, they were just unable to recover and couldn't make the playoffs. But Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson are probably two I'd say. I say Sam Darnold more disappointing, especially with the way he started. We thought, he's back. This is the guy we thought we'd have, and just fell apart now. Probably have a starting job in Charlotte.
Yeah, the Sam Darnold one's good. Honestly, didn't even think of that. That's a really good pick. I have a few as well. First, obviously, I just want to say Ryan Tannehill, based on the year, coming in 2019, playing really good and leading Tennessee to top 5 offense last year in terms of stats wise and all that kind of stuff. Coming this year, new offensive coordinator, there was plenty of challenges and obviously the injury bug. So I don't put all of that on Ryan Tannehill, but, there obviously are moments like if it's, a superstar quarterback as in like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. Obviously, I'm not saying that Ryan Tannehill is anywhere on their level. But if he was like that, things might have been a little bit smoother during the year. But that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that because I'll still stick by Ryan Tannehill. But I also want to say Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Because so much hype, and we know how good he is, and obviously with his background coming from Cartersville High School, where he never lost, going to Clemson, where he rarely lost. He's a tried and true winner, and comes to a franchise in Jacksonville who really just obviously the experiment with Urban Meyer was an utter failure. We all know that. And that's killed a year of his development, no matter. And there were times when he looked, decent, like that Colts game in the last game of the year looked really good. But the rest of the time, like he was so disappointing, whether that's his own fault or just a product of Jacksonville as a franchise. I don't really know who you can place the majority of the blame on, but Trevor Lawrence, definitely with all the hype he got, was disappointing. But my ultimate number one is Baker Mayfield, because the Browns had so much. They had so much to build off of the year prior. Making the playoffs for one is, obviously unheard of in Cleveland. We all know their struggles since the turn of the millennium. Right. And coming into this year after beating the Steelers so bad in the playoffs and, getting a playoff win coming into this season, you expected that division to be, probably 4 really, really good football teams, which all 4 of the teams still were good. Bengals obviously doing great, really great now. Ravens were banged up, but we all know the Ravens are a good team. Steelers, Mike Tomlin's always going to coach them up well. They're going to have a good record, but, they just didn't have the pieces in place. And this looked like a year that the Browns could do it. Like if the Browns would have played to their potential like they did last year, I think they would have easily won this division. And a lot of that falls on Baker Mayfield. And my main point of all this is just look at the situation with Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, Odell, a lot of drama came out of there, and they were saying that Baker's the issue. It's not Odell, and everybody was so one-sided. Well, OBJ goes to a lot of the Rams and is having a career resurgence. So it's hard to say that was Odell's fault up there. But Baker Mayfield, obviously, he battled injuries too. But Baker Mayfield definitely disappointing just for the Browns because they really looked like they had something, and now they've taken a step back.
Yeah. I think two of the guys fell there, Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott. I think I put them. I think the Cowboys as a whole were disappointed because they just, again, another year they win the East when the East is down and can't finish it off again, regardless of, how that game ended, against the 49ers. Again, there's a whole lot leading up to that caused them to lose that game. And, that's another team I think we talked about so disappointing as well. So, and then also I think you probably put Kirk Cousins on there again. And we talked about how Mike Zimmer finally got the axe. And so, interesting to see how some of these players will hopefully improve in the coming year. Interesting to see some situations for those teams. We'll look at the most improved player of the year. Some teams that kind of took a step forward. And I think we've mentioned him. We talk about him a lot. Joe Burrow. I think that's probably your most improved guy. Of course, he got hurt last year. This year coming back, you're banged up. You still don't really have a great offensive line. You did fix some holes. Jackson Carbon from Clemson drafting him was a big time get. And then, of course, you get Jamar Chase in there to help with the offense. But you're still thinking, the Bengals, they can move forward again, win 9 of their games, contend for a playoff spot. They'll be fine. They still only went 10-7. But Joe Burrow is possibly the reason. And he's the reason that they're in the Super Bowl because, like I said, confidence can get you far.
Yeah.
And he has stared down all these crazy guys. Had to go to a raucous Nashville against the number 1 seed, and got sacked 9 times and was still able, with his team, to lead them down the field for a game-winning field goal with McPherson. Had to go to Arrowhead. And again, when they were down 21-10, or down 21-3, was still confident enough to lead his team down some drives. The defense, of course, got some stops, and they were able to finish it off and win. So, Joe Burrow, man, he's a guy that if you have on your team, I think, he gives you a chance in every – he's like a Tom Brady type. I would not bet on the other team. I would not bet him out because as long as you have a solid, poised quarterback back there, you can get far. I think Joe Burrow has already ascended to that this year. And, it's just crazy to see, again, the Bengals only drafted him 2 years ago. They went 2-14. Yeah. And last year they went 4-12. And this year now that 10-7 going to the Super Bowl, that's just big time. I think he's probably your most improved player. He definitely took a big time step forward. Did Joe Burrow. It'll be interesting to see again how he can close it out for sure. I think another player on there, Deebo Samuel, is also your most improved because he had to kind of be everything for the 49ers this year. And, he was so good. Again, like I said, that touchdown they scored against the Rams, he hit a 3rd, 4th, and 5th gear against them. That's just ungodly. And, I think he's improved a whole lot. And it's just good to see him out in San Francisco thriving and just, keeping the 49ers in it when, of course, several times Jimmy G just didn't look great at times. He's probably one of the guys most disappointing as well. He kept them in a lot of games and won them some games. And so, but between Deebo and Joe Burrow, those are probably your most two improved, I would say.
Yeah, for me, Deebo was one of mine. So, he's ascended to a superstar status. He's unreal. And he has shown that he can be the guy on a team and he can, will a whole offense by having so many roles and just playing so many roles on the team and can take them far. So props to Deebo. I have 2. I have one more honorable mention. I want to mention James Conner.
Right.
Because James Conner coming, we knew he was good in Pittsburgh. And that in free agency, he winds up with the Cardinals and ends up having a very, very good year. And, especially in terms of fantasy purpose, he was a touchdown machine when the Cardinals were playing their best. And so props to him for, going to a new place and even splitting carries. Like he was a RB1. Like you could have started him in fantasy just about any weekend, and he was good to give you at least a touchdown or two. So yeah, props to James Conner. But my number one, Colts fans, this might be the only nice thing I ever say to you, is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran for 1,100 yards last year, which is obviously very good. There are a lot of running back. If you could consistently run for 1,000 yards, like that's the goal for a running back. A 1,000-yard season is a very good season. And now we've been spoiled with some running back performances, from Derrick Henry over the past couple of years. And obviously it's a shame he got hurt this year because I think he would have had a real chance to go back-to-back 2,000. But Jonathan Taylor coming out and doing what he did this year, running for 1,800 yards. I mean, it's unreal. Just in terms of like the how big of a step he took. I mean, that's a 700-yard step. And he played 15 games last year. Played 17 this year, and he had some down games, but when he was on, he's freaking on, and he is a superstar, bell cow running back. And to me, Jonathan Taylor is the most improved player.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely took the next step forward, moved up to that MVP conversation at one point. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's a really good pick there. We'll move on. Rookie of the year. This was a rookie class that was kind of interesting. Of course, the quarterbacks get all the attention. And it was kind of weird. You saw Trey Lance didn't get much playing time. Trevor Lawrence stuck at Jacksonville. Like we said, the two best quarterbacks out of the rookie class were Mac Jones and Davis Mills.
Right.
With Mac Jones, we all saw at college was really good. And I think a lot of people who watched him in college expected to do well, but nobody expected Davis Mills, especially after that first start against the Bills. We lost 40-0. And they had, I think, under 50 yards of offense in that game. He ended up strong for him. So you can make the argument Mac Jones, but of course Mac Jones kind of tapered off toward the end of the year. I think it's got to be Jamar Chase, really, because that's a whole new level of offense for the Bengals. Because again, and we all kind of thought, this could be a good pick, but also there's no offensive line help for the Bengals. And I still showed sometimes Joe Burrow had to make some crazy plays against the Chiefs, the sacks against the Titans, but still Jamar Chase would go and make just insane catches. It's another good tool with T. Higgins in there last year, and then with Uzama out there and Tyler Boyd and all these guys out there. Just another bit. And Joe Mixon is a big piece of this offense, and Chase, Burrow and Chase just know each other so well from their LSU days, where Burrow would just throw it up and was dropping in the bucket to Jamar Chase. And I think, you got to look at Chase really as your rookie of the year because, again, without them, I don't think the Bengals are here. I think the Bengals are like last year, kind of a pretty average team. They didn't have that second gear on offense. And again, it's a pick a lot of people didn't like, but it's worked out a whole lot well for the Bengals this year.
Yeah, for sure. It's without a doubt, it's Jamar Chase. There's no doubt in my mind that he is the rookie of the year this year. Somebody that I will shed some light on as well is Micah Parsons down in Dallas, just coming out having he's the leader of that defense. There's no question about that. And coming, out of Penn State, the big story was he was a childhood Cowboys fan. So this is his ultimate dream, and he's making the most of it. He was everywhere this year for them, and he is going to be a stud in this league for years to come. But Jamar Chase, 100% rookie of the year, no doubt about it, especially with all the doubt, even from myself. I just couldn't fathom the Bengals not taking offensive line help, in the draft to protect Joe Burrow, especially after what happened last year with him blowing his knee out. And they draft Jamar Chase, who we thought, could be good. And there were doubts about him in preseason because he couldn't catch the ball. None of that matters. They're in the Super Bowl now. He is your rookie of the year, 100%.
Yeah. Looking at some other rookies that had very good seasons. Of course, Kyle Pitts still had a solid year. Second tight end in NFL history at 1,000 yards in their first year, which is crazy. Of course, that guy can play really anywhere. So, that was good for Matt Ryan to get. Jalen Waddle at Miami, 104 catches this year.
when they started winning after they went 1-7, he emerged. Like if he'd have played like that all year, it could have been close with him and Chase.
Yeah.
Sure. But Waddle's got a bright future too. He was played really good down the stretch.
Yeah, another guy, Patrick Surtain II, looked pretty good. He's a good cornerback and played well. Najee Harris, he kind of took a dive toward the end, but still had to be the guy in that Pittsburgh offense.
If Pittsburgh gets somebody to block for him, he's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Devontae Smith, I think, was a difference maker for Hurts up in Philadelphia, got into the playoffs. Elijah Mitchell, the 49ers.
Yes, Elijah Mitchell from the 49ers.
Yeah. 6th-round pick and only played in 11 games, but led the team in rushing yards and really kind of willed them to the playoffs. So that's a big-time guy for them. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions.
Yeah.
Kind of quietly, of course, his Lions didn't have a great season, but became the featured guy in that offense for Jared Goff. If they can get another piece in Detroit in the draft this year,
yeah,
I think there's a good chance. And then Michael Carter for the Jets. Missing times because of injury, but he runs hard and he catches the backfield. And then, like I said, Davis Mills, I don't know if he's the guy in Houston. You can't replace Deshaun Watson for sure.
Right.
But if they don't screw it up, and I feel like they screwed up their coaching hire, and we'll talk about
I do too. Yeah.
If they don't screw it up, they have a chance to make Davis Mills a solid quarterback in the future, I think. But we'll kind of look and see what happens there. Moving on, Defensive Player of the Year. This is a year where there wasn't a whole lot of defense, it seems like, in some of these games, but defenses did show up big. And I think, again, it's just you see it all the time. I think Aaron Donald is, once again, your Defensive Player of the Year. Just the impact he makes in games where you're having to have 3 people block him, 2 people block him, and he still gets off and gets pressure. He still gets in the backfield. And also he frees up Von Miller to do stuff now for the Rams, which is a pick up for them. And also he frustrates you, and Jalen Ramsey can go out there and get some deflections. And anybody on that defense can do so. I just think Aaron Donald, you have to account for him. In every single game. He's just a guy that you have to look at. T.J. Watt is also up there because he went flying. He flew around and probably broke the sack record. Maybe you don't know. It's kind of a weird, kind of the numbers and all that stuff, but still a great year for him. And then Micah Parsons again too. I think Micah Parsons, was such a great coverage guy. You got to look at him. But yeah, Aaron Donald, T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons are your big picks. But I'd have to go with Aaron Donald still because he was just so good this year.
I am going to be different because, you could give it to Aaron Donald every year. We know that.
Yeah.
And he is going to be all-pro defensive tackle for many more years to come. But in a year where he ties the all-time sack record with Michael Strahan, it's T.J. Watt. He is an unbelievable difference maker, which I'm not saying Aaron Donald's not. We all know that. But when you have that edge rusher like that when you just need him to come free off the edge and you need a forced fumble or you need a big sack, like T.J. Watt is going to be there and he's going to do that. And that's what he did this year on a Steelers team that struggled. And T.J. Watt was hurt for a couple games, correct? And he didn't play, and he still tied the sack record?
Yeah, he missed a couple of games. So.
Come on, man. T.J. Watt, to me, Defensive Player of the Year, over Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's going to win plenty of them. He's already won plenty of them. I think we can give one to Watt this time. But Micah Parsons, too, great season. I'll throw out, I'm a Titans homer, Jeffrey Simmons, anybody on the Titans O-line, obviously, Harold Landry didn't have as many sacks, but Jeffrey Simmons, just keep an eye on him, man. He's going to rival Aaron Donald at the all-pro defensive tackle level for years to come. And I you can't change my mind. Jeffrey Simmons is a difference maker. I would love it if he's, in this conversation seriously next year, but Jeffrey Simmons is also a little honorable mention for me.
Yeah. Some of the guys you talk about, Myles Garrett still had a great year for the Browns. In a lot of games. Trayvon Diggs, Trayvon Diggs was kind of up and down at times. You could get burnt, but you could get a lot of picks.
No, I hate that. Trayvon Diggs is fine. He's a ball magnet. He can he's a ball hawk, the definition of it. But he will get torched by pedestrian wide receivers. He will give up all the yards.
Nick Bosa, of course, coming back this year, had a solid start or solid finish. Two guys with the Patriots that were good: Matt Judon and J.C. Jackson. Kept them in a lot of games. Kevin Byard, I think.
Byard had a great bounce back year.
Yeah, and then of course Trey Hendrickson kind of emerging again with the Bengals after kind of being beside Cam Jordan. New Orleans kind of wondered how he would do in a new home, and he did great, I think, for the Bengals this year to kind of make big games up to the conversation there. So yeah, there's a lot of good defensive players, a lot of good defensive line players for sure. In the NFL this year, and and of course the two of them I think are playing in the Super Bowl. And so we'll go to the best offensive players of the year. There's a lot. I think there's a lot for sure.
There's a lot.
There's of course explosive offensive players, and I'm going to look here. Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is up there for sure every year. Tom Brady is up there as well. He still had a solid year. What turned out to be his last year, which is very surprising.
Yeah,
see that. I think Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford had great years. But man, I'm going to go with the guy I said was most improved. I think Deebo Samuel, because Deebo had to do it all. He had to pass sometimes, he had to run sometimes, he had to throw. He caught the ball, he did special teams. I just think Deebo Samuel, man, just had that different gear for you, and I think that's got to be Offensive Player of the Year. That's probably an award that should go to a quarterback. I get that. Man, I think just Deebo Samuel was just such a game-breaking guy for the 49ers this year, willed them to so many wins, and I think that's Offensive Player of the Year. But I'll give Matthew Stafford his props too, because Stafford, man, first year out of Detroit, finally gets some help.
Yeah,
has a great season this year, and he looked so good. And so Deebo and Matthew Stafford probably are two guys I'd look at for that Offensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah. Offensive Player of the Year award is typically, it could be a quarterback award, but that's the typical MVP award.
Yeah.
So, it could be Rodgers, could be Brady. It could very well be Deebo had a fantastic year. Once again, I'm going Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, 1,800 rushing yards, 18 touchdowns, 18 touchdowns on the ground. Jonathan Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year, book it. That's my pick, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Some of the guys you get, of course, Rodgers, Brady, of course, Cooper Kupp. He was up there as well for all he did. And just 1 second. Just looking at some lists here. Another guy, I think, Austin Eckler, talk about for the Chargers, and even Justin Herbert as well.
Yeah.
Great with them. But yeah, there was a lot of good, of course, quarterbacks. And then Odell Beckham, like we said, came back, and with 40, I think he's probably most improved, one of your most improved as well, and has a career resurgence out in Los Angeles. And that will move us to MVP. Of course, MVP, most valuable player, getting probably a quarterback. Oh, Offensive Player of the Year, of course, Patrick Mahomes. We got to talk about him too. Once he got going, he was good. Josh Allen, I think, once again,
yeah,
talk about him some as well. And then Derrick Henry, the short time he played, didn't play a full season, but still led the league in rushing for most of the year. And then, I think was still the top 5 at the end of the season, despite not playing the last 8 weeks of the year or something like that. So just something insane like that. But I think, I think your MVP, most valuable player, I think it's Cooper Kupp.
Yes, it's Cooper Kupp, 100%.
Literally, I know this is not an award they give for postseason play. Without him, the Rams are not in the Super Bowl.
It's not even postseason play.
Yeah.
This man, I know it was an extra game, and he even discredited it himself, saying that he had the chance to break the all-time regular season record, and he said, it wouldn't mean the same thing because it's an extra game. I don't care. If you can do that as a wide receiver, that's unbelievable. How many receiving yards did he have this year?
He had almost 2,000, 1,947.
Ridiculous.
13 and a half yards a catch.
We haven't seen a performance like that from a wide receiver since Calvin Johnson, first ballot Hall of Famer, was in the NFL. It's Cooper Kupp. I know it's going to be. It's turned itself into a quarterback award.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole thing last year with Derrick Henry running for 2,000 yards. That literally has happened less than 10 times, and Derrick Henry still couldn't win it. So I know it's tough, and I know they're going to give this to like Aaron Rodgers or heck, even Brady. Now,
I could give you the Brady since he retired. Now it's going to make me mad, but he's still a good year. But
it's Cooper Kupp, 100%. And if it's anybody else, you're wrong.
Cooper Kupp's worst game receiving was week 4 when the Rams lost to the Cardinals 37-20. He still had 5 catches, 64 yards. Like
he's automatic.
Yeah.
And you paired that with a competent quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who's obviously more than competent. It's lethal. It's ridiculous. And then you pair OBJ on the other side, so you got to worry about him as well. It's Cooper Kupp is unstoppable.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you some numbers. This is his receiving log starting from week 1 for the playoffs. 7 for 108, 9 for 163, 9 for 96, 564, 7 for 92, 9 for 130, 10 for 156, 7 for 115, 11 for 95, 11 for 122, 7 for 96, 8 for 129, 13 for 123, 9 for 136, 10 for 109, 6 for 95, 7 for 110, 5 for 61, but still had a touchdown. 9 of 183, and then last week, of course, in San Francisco, 11 for 142. He has had a touchdown every single game going back to December 26th, and he still had 109 yards in that game despite not having any touchdowns.
Yeah, he is the MVP.
Yeah, he is the best player on this field. It's incredible. I think he racked up a total of, according to Pro Football Reference, 294.5 fantasy points. Like, if you look at just that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 13-yard is a catch. Just when he throws him, you're getting a first down and more every time. And, he had Matthew Stafford finally, and it's just big time for him. It's crazy. The kid from Yakima, Washington.
Yeah.
Went to Eastern Washington, played on the murder turf up there in Eastern Washington, and is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. Yeah. And he will not say it. He's even said, like you said, he was like, it's just I just do my job. But the guy is insane. Glad to see him take that next step, of course. And yeah, that's your best wide receiver again, and that's your MVP, I think. And this award probably gonna go to Rodgers or Brady or Mahomes or somebody like that. But like I said, about Cooper Kupp, I don't think the Rams are here for sure, especially if they lost Robert Woods and even at OBJ. I still don't think without Cooper Kupp, the Rams would be this far.
Yeah. Without Cooper Kupp, do they even beat Brady? I mean, that's the reason. They almost blew it, and then he finds Cooper Kupp up the seam to get them in field goal range, and they spike it and kick the field goal, and that's how they advance.
Yep. So, yeah, just heck of a year for him and a heck of an NFL season. And finally, of course, game of the year. There were a lot of good games. Like we said, the last 6 games have all just walk-offs or close to walk-offs, big-time wins. I still, even though it hurts, that Bills-Chiefs playoff game, one of the best football games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's probably it. Another game I'll mention, though, is all the way back in week 5, the Lions at the Vikings. The Lions and Vikings all had great games the entire year because all their games are close. But just the Lions, you think they're going to get their first win of the year. Like in 2 weeks earlier, Justin Tucker had made a 66-yard field goal. Yeah. Beat him. I almost put that one on there too.
Yeah.
And Lions score, and then Adam Thielen comes alive, and the Vikings win 19-17. Just a crazy game there. That's an honorable mention for me for sure. But yeah, the best game of the year, hands down for me, still AFC divisional round, Bills and Chiefs. It didn't go the way I wanted it to, but still the best football game of any kind, college or NFL, I've seen in a while.
Yeah, that 100% is the game of the year. But my honorable mention, I'm throwing it back to week 1. Week 1 started with a bang, and I don't even know if people remember it. It was on Monday Night Football, the Raiders and the Ravens.
Yes.
This
That
game was
awesome.
wild. What a way to start the freaking NFL season. The Raiders won this game 33-27. But basically what happened, Daniel Carlson drilled a 55-yard field goal with 2 seconds left in regulation, forces overtime. Just 35 seconds after the Ravens had taken the lead with their 47-yarder. And the Raiders seemingly won on a 33-yard touchdown pass to Bryan Edwards that was live, it looked great. I thought the Raiders walked it off, but they reviewed it. Bryan Edwards was down at the 1. 3 plays later, the Raiders throw an interception on the 1-yard line, or after a penalty, I think it was on the 5, but throw an interception. Ravens, all they have to do is get a field goal, and Lamar Jackson gets strip sacked by Carl Nassib, and then 2 plays later, Derek Carr finds Zay Jones for the walk-off wide open touchdown. This game was wild. That ending was so captivating.
Yeah.
That one is definitely an honorable mention for me. I'll also mention just Titans Seahawks way back in week 2 or 3, something like that. The Titans come all the way back. Derrick Henry has a trademark 60-something yard touchdown run. They come all the way back to win in overtime. It's where you first saw that defense step up, obviously, after having a bad first week against Arizona, coming out, stepping up and sacking Russell Wilson for a safety that should have ended the game. Julio Jones also caught a touchdown in that game that was not called a touchdown. I'm still salty about that. Julio Jones' first touchdown shouldn't have come in the last week of the regular season. It came in week 2. But Titans getting that win is also big for me. I'll always remember that one. Fat Randy.
I think week 5 as well, Green Bay and Cincinnati. What
a game. That's such a good game, too.
Yeah, so the weirdest game. Nobody can make a field goal at the end. They go to OT, and finally Mason Crosby's able to sneak one through to win it. That game was insanity. I think the Titans-Bills Monday Night Football game should be on there as well, because that game was
it was great.
With the stop at the goal line for the Titans to win it.
That Packers-Bengals game on the stupid meter, it breaks the meter. And that solely makes that game so great. And then you look at what that is, where Evan McPherson's villain arc has come from. Like, that game still haunts him. How much confidence do you have to have a game like that, where you literally give it away multiple times,
chance to win,
but still in the AFC divisional round, you drill it, and then in the AFC championship game, you tell them, well, it looks like we're going to the Super Bowl, boys, and he drills it. Confidence, unreal.
Unreal. He got that Joe Shiesty method with him, and that worked. Another one that was good, Green Bay, Arizona in week 8 on Thursday Night Football. That was a crazy one. That was Arizona's first loss, and that really kind of started the downfall of Arizona, because they really went the same since that game. This is one I just remembered looking at it. Baltimore and Minnesota went to OT 34-31. That game was wild, too.
Yeah.
At times, and Baltimore ended up winning that one.
Steelers Vikings, where Vikings were up 26-0. Steelers came all the way back and were within one play of possibly tying the game. And that pass to Freiermuth over the middle gets broken up by Harrison or whoever it is for the Vikings. The Vikings almost blew that game.
And of course, God, is that what Chase Claypool doesn't get spikes the ball or celebrates or something or whatever? That game. Stupid. So dumb. There were a lot of really good, really fun games this year. Of course, you have week 8 Mike White coming out of nowhere with the Jets. Not really a great game, just a wild performance. I think Raiders and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
That was a good one.
Wild one. There were a lot of penalties in that one, but it went back and forth, and the Raiders walked it off with a field goal to win that one. That kept them alive. And since Washington, Seattle 17-15, where Washington couldn't kick a field goal all night because their kicker was hurt, and ended up still winning the game. One of the craziest endings of the game, the fourth quarter I've ever seen in a football game. And of course, we got to talk Los Angeles, Las Vegas, the Raiders and the Chargers last week of the season. If you tie, you win.
Yeah.
And then the Chargers call timeout, and they're just like, okay, well, then they run it. First down, field goal, back over. The entire country pulling for the stupidest outcome of all time. Ben Roethlisberger's career ended with him sitting on the couch.
How it should have been. How it should have been.
No. Oh, man. It's a lot of good games for sure in that one.
If the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl Sunday, Stafford to Cup to end Brady's career is going to live in lore forever.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This one hurts too. Tampa Bay and Buffalo. Tampa Bay gets a big lead. Buffalo comes back and ties it. And Tampa Bay walks it off to win that game. I think
of all the people to score that touchdown, Rashad Perryman. Mm-hmm. What?
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring up repressed memories, but
it's all good. And then of course week 18, another really good one. San Francisco and the Rams, week 18, where the Rams go all the way back, or the 49ers come all the way back and win OT. That was a good one. I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore from week 18 as well. They got the Steelers into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Week 18 was wild. A lot of really good games.
Just another one to mention for me, Colts Titans, the second matchup at Indy. Titans win 34-31 in overtime, but this was the game where Carson Wentz just don't know what the heck he was doing. Just flipped it up from his own end zone, and Elijah Bolden snagged it for a touchdown that should have won Tennessee the game. And then Jonathan Taylor said, "Hey, I still exist," and they scored a touchdown. And then Wentz went on to throw another pick in overtime, and Titans won that game. That was a lot of fun, at least for me.
I think another good one, speaking of the Titans, San Francisco and Tennessee from 2 days before Christmas, that Thursday night game, that was a really good one. We're just going back and forth with
A.J. Brown went off.
I think Green Bay and Cleveland that night too, on Christmas night.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. And then, you just had a lot of good games that week as well. I think, I forgot Dallas beat Washington 56-14 this year. Jeez. And then also, I love ties are stupid. Pittsburgh and Lions.
Amazing.
Get a tie. Just
so good.
Incredible. Lions, of course, the best 4-win team of all time. Just couldn't get there. Great NFL season though. A lot of fun. That'll be fun to see the culmination, which is, of course, the Super Bowl this week, Bengals and Rams. And I believe I have not seen a line on this. I'm pulling that up right now. There's a lot of talk, of course. 2 weeks of talk to lead this. ESPN, the matchup predictor, has a 66% chance for the Rams to win this game. The Rams will pick to win by 4.5 points. The over-under is 48.5. This could be an offensive explosion. With both quarterbacks, the good wide receiver playing, or the running backs. We don't talk about them enough, but Sonny Michel and Joe Mixon going up against each other will be huge. It's one of those where they both score the same amount of points a game, 27.1. They both average about the same number of yards a game. The Bengals defense, though, has been kind of their weak point this year. Hasn't looked as great. Eli Apple, of course, so up and down this season and letting people get by him. And I think that is the reason the Rams will win this game. I think it's going to come down to who gets the last possession. And I think it's going to be which defense shows up. And I think the Rams, just with Von Miller and Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, just getting after Burrow constantly. And, like I said, Burrow's got the confidence to win it. I would not bet against Burrow too much because the man's going to the toughest things to play in and won playoff games. And he's going to have to go play a road Super Bowl game. I think, confidence gets you far. Man, I think Matt Stafford's got that veteran instinct. You've seen it before in Detroit. You saw it his first couple of years in Detroit, where he didn't have all these offensive weapons. He was able to finish off games. Now that he's got defense, I think whichever defense shows up when they need to is going to win it, and that's why I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I would say something like 38-35, 38-34, something like a last-second field goal, last-second touchdown. Again, I wouldn't count Evan McPherson either, of course, when it comes to that either.
Right.
But we have him against Matt Gay, who's been consistent this year as well. It's going to be a heck of a game, I think. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's got a chance to be very high scoring. I think the Rams I can give a slight edge to the Rams, but I would not be surprised at all if the Bengals and Joe Burrow are able to pull this off.
Yeah. Hey, when's the last time we've had a Super Bowl where I feel like there's genuine good thoughts about both teams? Like, I feel like no matter how this Super Bowl finishes up or how it goes down Sunday night, that whoever wins, it's a storybook season and it's a feel-good story. Because on one side, you have obviously the Bengals doing what they've done in their rebuild, which is way ahead of schedule, and coming out here, winning the AFC North for the first time in years, getting to the playoffs for the first time in a few years, and then winning a playoff game for the first time in 31 years, and then going all the way to the Super Bowl to bring it home, led behind their second-year quarterback who just blew out his knee last year. Like, what a story that is, obviously. And then on the other side, you have Matthew Stafford, who I feel like is a genuinely respected guy in the league, and everybody respects him for his time he served in Detroit. And for him to be able to get Detroit to 3 playoff appearances is great in itself. Mm-hmm. But just for Matthew Stafford to finally bring one home, I feel like would be so nice for him. Yeah. What I think is going to give one team the edge over the other is just like, look at what Tennessee did to the Bengals. Tennessee obviously had the 9 sacks, held Joe Burrow scoreless on the day. And the Rams defense is more than capable of doing that when you have Von Miller and Aaron Donald running after Joe Burrow all night. If the Rams are able to put up a performance like Tennessee's defense did, the Rams offense is going to make sure that this gets capped off with a Super Bowl victory. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in my mind. And then you're going to have Jalen Ramsey on Jamar Chase all night. The X factor for the Bengals is going to be CJ Uzomah, who is playing after, a scary knee injury, but it turns out to not be very serious.
Yeah.
And he's going to get out there and play. If they're able to continue picking up first downs and not having drives stall out by using Uzomah on third down or check down or whatever they want to do, then I think the Bengals are definitely going to be in it. But if Uzomah has a really good day, they have a good chance to win this game. But I'm going to give the edge to the Rams just as a complete team. Not that the Bengals are not, and they've done amazing to get here. But the Rams, just with the star power, I mean, their defense is stellar. Defensive line is going to be getting after Joe Burrow all night. And then on the other side, you have a quarterback in Matt Stafford that can make you pay with people like Odell Beckham Jr. and the MVP Cooper Kupp.
For sure. So, yeah, it should be a heck of a game. Like I said, yeah, this is the first Super Bowl in a long time where I think the whole country's just like, you don't all like, oh, I got to pull against Brady, or I got to pull against the Patriots.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at the past Super Bowls. Like, it's always been Brady, which obviously, as great as he is, he's obviously got a ton of guys that are a ton of people that don't like him. Mm-hmm. And then you got teams like Kansas City has gone from being, oh my gosh, they're the favorites. Patrick Mahomes is so fun, to now, oh my God, they're annoying. I'm ready for them to not be good anymore.
Yeah, the Eagles too.
Yeah,
like either the Falcons.
Even back to like 2012 when it was the Ravens and the 49ers, like there was a lot of animosity there because people didn't like what Colin Kaepernick was doing and how the Ravens, a lot of people feel strongly about Ray Lewis and teams like that. Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger in 2010 against Green Bay. People don't like the Steelers. So, I mean, this is the first time in a long time that it's been a Super Bowl where I think no matter who wins, the country wins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, it's one of those where it's kind of like the future of the NFL with Joe Burrow and kind of the older guard of the Super Bowl NFL meeting up finally for the first time with Matthew Stafford. So, again, whoever wins it, again, it's going to be the first ever title for the Bengals ever. Of course, I haven't been there since 1988.
Yeah.
I didn't win a playoff game since 1991 before this year. Never won a road playoff game, won 2. And then, of course, the Rams, of course, who have been close a couple of years, of course, made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And, of course, Matthew Stafford, who hasn't won one, and now getting there. So that'll be a lot of fun to see. Looking to the rest of the NFL, all the NFL head coaching vacancies have been filled for better or for worse. Of course, there's a lot of drama around Brian Flores. Kind of getting the shaft from the Giants, possibly the Broncos too, and of course getting fired by the Dolphins. But we'll go through some of these. Some of the ones, kind of the quieter ones. Dennis Allen, new coach with the Saints after Sean Payton retires. Interesting to step in because who's going to be your quarterback? What to do with Taysom Hill?
Right.
And of course Alvin Kamara got in trouble this past weekend, so now you got to deal with that. So
yeah,
great start, Dennis Allen for sure.
Side note, this is all I want to say about this. The Pro Bowl sucks. It's so bad.
Yeah, literally, I turned it
so
on.
Terrible.
I turned it on and I saw Hunter Renfrow catch a touchdown pass. I'm like, I am good to go, and I just turned it off. So
it's so bad, but I completely understand why it is the way it is because football is such a physically demanding sport, more so than any of the other major sports. And the game doesn't mean anything. It's just a fun time for the players to get out there, which is great. But like as far as it being watchable, it's not watchable. It's not fun. I would much rather like it if you pitted the two worst teams against each other for the rights to the number 1 overall pick. Now that would be much watch TV.
Yeah, like the Lions and Jags playing each other, or something. That would have been a lot of fun. So, but continuing on. Kevin O'Connell taking over the Vikings again. Vikings are a good team, I think. Just somebody got to grab their potential. Then, of course, another quieter one. Nathaniel Hackett to the Broncos and former OC for the Packers. Does that mean Rodgers is going out to Denver? He's already got his coach there.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
That kind of brings it in. Interesting to see, though, if they can't get him. I think that's a good guy for work with Bridgewater still, because I think Bridgewater still has some potential, of course. But kind of work. Interesting with Matt Eberflus coaching for the Bears. The only reason I say this is, one, they stuck with a guy on the team, which I'm like, okay, that's great. Their owner for the Bears is like 98 or something, old woman. There's a rumor going around the reason they hired is because she didn't want to learn any more names. So they just kept another Matt to coach them. And I'm like, all right, I hope this works.
Right.
But,
I think the loss of Eberflus in Indy is going to hurt them more than it's going to help the Bears.
Yeah, for sure. The Raiders, again, probably thought Versace should have had a chance, I think, but whatever. And they are going to go Josh McDaniels round 2, baby.
Oh, God.
Another chance in the AFC West.
It doesn't excite me. Like, no.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Now, again, I think Derek Carr's a better quarterback than Tim Tebow.
Right, I agree.
But I don't see it.
He definitely ain't Tom Brady.
No, you're not inheriting Tom Brady for sure. And so it's like, okay, see what you can do this time. I mean, hopefully, again, if they can get Waller healthy, I think this Raiders team is still a good team. But, man, just interesting to see. This one, of course, hitting home. Brian Daboll finally gets his head coaching job with the Giants. Former Bills offensive coordinator, of course, helped turn Josh Allen into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL after 2 just kind of seasons of mediocrity. And so that'll be interesting to see what he can do with Daniel Jones, who a lot of people think has raw talent like Josh Allen. And we'll have to see if he can stay healthy. Of course, hopefully Saquon Barkley can stay healthy. There's a chance of that team, possibly turning a corner. But the Giants' management has been so bad for so long that it's going to be kind of a tough place. And now, speaking of management being so bad for so long, the Jacksonville Jaguars are getting Doug Peterson, the former Eagles coach. He did hit the Super Bowl, but
look, as a Titans fan, I love it. But Jacksonville, how do you mess this up when you have Leftwich in your freaking, like, in the palm of your hand, a former player who has been around this franchise, who has now gotten to lead a dynamic offense led by the best quarterback of all time, and you're going to mess this up and not bring him in to help out Trevor Lawrence? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All the pieces were there. Did it make too much sense? I don't understand, Jacksonville. I don't know what the heck you're doing.
They kept interviewing people, and eventually Leftwich got tired of it. It's like, all right, I'm done. Good for him. So
yeah, more power to him, man.
Interesting to see how that works. Again, they're bringing in some offensive coordinators and some stuff that could help out Trevor Lawrence, of course. So hopefully, maybe it's just one of those where Peterson kind of lets everybody else do the coaching, but. That's going to be interesting to see. Dolphins, of course, got rid of Brian Flores, which is an interesting decision. They choose Mike McDaniel from the 49ers, a younger coach who's been in the league for a little bit, but has a good offensive mind. And I think teaming him up with Tua could help. Tua and Jalen Waddle could kind of help. That's kind of been the missing link for the Dolphins, has been to kind of get that offense going. Defenses look great. It's just kind of got to get the offense going. So interesting to see what he can do, of course.
It is an interesting hire. He seems like, if you watch his interviews, he's so funny though.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to be an interesting hire. I would like to see it work for him down there, just because watching his interviews, like I generally like this guy. And there's a lot of questions around it, and he is young, which is the trendy thing. So
yeah, for sure. And then the final one, I know you like this one because it means the Texans are in the mud still, but Lovie Smith back in the NFL.
Yeah.
And coaching the Texans, and I feel like this was one of those where the Texans were like, oh, everybody else has hired somebody. Who's left? Lovie, what are you doing, bud? Come on over here.
Yeah, so dumb. I cannot believe that hire.
The Texans are being run basically by a youth pastor. If you don't know that story about them, just look at that. That's your first problem. But yeah, the Texans. Yeah, man. I get it. Lovey got the Bears to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. I get that.
Yeah.
That was 1 year. Since then, didn't work out in Chicago, didn't work in Tampa. Third time's the charm, I guess.
Yeah. I don't understand it. I don't get it. How you're going to treat Cully like you did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to bring in somebody that was on the staff like that. Like it doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
Is it going to work? I highly doubt it. It didn't really work anywhere else. I don't understand it. But as a Titans fan, I love it.
I think there's an omen, because I believe the fire alarm went off at his first ever press conference too.
Yeah.
With Texans the other day. So if that don't tell you something, then something's going on there, Texans. But yeah. That's just an interesting hire. Before we move on again, of course, this literally broke the day after we recorded, but Tom Brady did retire. And Tom Brady, love him, hate him, I think we can all agree he is the best quarterback in NFL history. And just, the guy left an impact, especially on me being a Bills fan.
Right.
The guy, he had 33 wins and I think 4 losses his entire career to the Bills. Just insane stats. Just looking at the stats now, he finishes his career with 84,520 passing yards and with 624 touchdowns to just 203 interceptions. The guy, we said he was going to play till he's 55. I guess he decided, he's just done. And just wanted to walk off. It's weird he didn't, try to win a Super Bowl and then walk off to the sunset. But, he won the most Super Bowls ever as a quarterback, won 7 of them. That's the most of any. If he was a franchise by himself, he'd have more than any franchise, which is insane. And the thing about the guy was picked in the 6th round. And got lucky when Drew Bledsoe gets hurt for the Patriots, comes in 2001, leads them to that Super Bowl of the Rams, another one over the Panthers, another one over the Eagles, his first three-peat. I believe in NFL history, and then consistently stays on top. There was the Deflategate and all that scandal, the cheating scandal by the Patriots. You can talk about all of that, but you can't ignore it. Tom Brady, I think, is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the greatest NFL player of all time. And, he changed the game because literally every year was like, how do we stop Tom Brady? When it was in the AFC East, he dominated that entire division. You look down the 2 years or a couple of years he spent down in Tampa, it was like, how do we stop the Bucks? And he got people to come play with him. That didn't you think would. He got Gronk out of retirement. He got, and he just elevated him and Bill Belichick elevated each other. I think we forget Bill Belichick was a failure at the Browns before he went to New England. So, better or worse, Tom Brady is the best quarterback in NFL history. He would have had the perfect record in the Super Bowl if it wasn't for, surprisingly, Eli Manning twice and Nick Foles, which is wild to think about. Those were the two quarterbacks that beat him in the Super Bowl.
If he would have won those games, which by all intents and purposes he should have, they were favored
10-0 in Super Bowl.
10 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Unreal.
Yep. And there are teams who haven't even played in one Super Bowl franchises, let alone that franchise haven't played in 7 Super Bowls. And he would have been 10-0.
Yeah.
The
people. I'm sorry. No, you finish. Go ahead.
The guy's the GOAT. I mean, his last season, which is this year, threw for over 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns, just 12 interceptions. And, you got to know the guy was running on fumes at some point.
Yeah, still playing at the top of his game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and he can do whatever he wants now that he's retired. 22 years, 44 years old. He says, the door's still open. I don't know if it's going to be like a Brett Favre situation where he keeps coming back, but you never know. But,
yeah,
if this is it, again, hated the guy, hated the teams he was on. He kept beating the Bills, but he can't hurt me anymore.
Right.
And I hope whatever he does well. And, maybe he comes out of retirement at 55 to throw a touchdown pass to the son, kiss him on the lips, and then leave. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, man. Yes, I agree with everything that you just said. Tom Brady, the best of all time. I will say one thing to the people who are still hung up on Deflategate and all that stuff. Those are the same people that don't think Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and you can all suck it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, congrats Tom Brady, heck of a career, and don't ever come back. Don't ever come back. Love a guy. Oh, man. All right, so we'll move on from that. Move on to basketball. We'll start with the men, and of course we got to talk our talk because it's kind of a less talk, but Duke did beat North Carolina in a beatdown on Saturday.
Yeah,
in Tobacco Road. It would start off with a 28-9 run to start the game, and Duke ends up winning this game by a score of 87-67. At one point, it was a 30-point game, but of course took out all the starters. Kind of led by Play It Out, and Duke rolls to that win. AJ Griffin goes off in that game. Just couldn't miss from deep. And so if you're Duke, you got all this momentum. You just beat your rival on the road. Last trip to the Ding Dum. You come home and play Virginia. You still play pretty well. And in the final 2 minutes, just kind of falls apart. Virginia, of course, had made 1 3-pointer the entire game. Somebody loses the inbounder. Wide open, corner 3, bang, ball game Cavs. That's a disappointing way to come off that big time win for North Carolina for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. You can't lose the inbounder. That's just such a deflating thing.
Mm-hmm.
To lose it like that, especially after waxing North Carolina at home, in Chapel Hill by 20, and you played so good the other night. But honestly, it's right on par for Duke. Big win, big letdown loss. And that's just how it's been this year. The games that Duke has lost, Virginia, Florida State, Miami. The Ohio State game was a Big Ten ACC challenge. So, yeah. But the other games have been like the not necessarily the midweek games, but the lesser games in the ACC. Like Duke will get up for a big game. They've shown that, beating Gonzaga, beating North Carolina like they did, beating Kentucky at the beginning of the year. Like they'll get up for the big games, but that's what worries me. Like I think that this Duke team is more than capable of winning a national title and sending Coach K out in the best way ever. But it's going to be the opening rounds. It's going to be the round of 64, 32, and even possibly the Sweet 16. If Duke makes it to the Elite Eight, like lock them in. They're going to play in a national title game. But it's those first 2 or 3 games when they come out as probably a 2 seed unless they win out, coming out playing the 15 seed Norfolk State or whoever it's going to be. Mm-hmm. You got to watch out for that. And so, but Duke played very, very well against North Carolina and then let down loss against Virginia. But all of Duke's losses, they lost to Ohio State by 5. They lost to Miami by 2, Florida State by 1, and Virginia by 1. And in all these games, Duke had the lead late, and they blew it.
Yep.
The biggest thing for me against Virginia in this game is Paolo Banchero, who is your go-to, had 9 points in the first half, and then he finishes with 9 points. He got held a goose egg in the second half. So
he kind of got held by North Carolina too. Once they went black on them now,
things like that can't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the whole team's shooting well, it doesn't matter. But when you're looking for that guy to go to, that kind of has to hurt you. They have a game against Clemson tonight, a rematch from a couple of weeks ago. I don't wish being a Clemson basketball fan on anybody. I don't know why I take this role as well. This is why I pay more attention to Duke, I feel like at times. Because here are the losses for Clemson just the past few weeks. They lose to Boston College after being up by 23 at halftime, 70-68. They go to Syracuse, get smacked, 91-78. Beat Pitt at 75-48, good win. Lose to Duke in Cameron, 71-69. Only had 1 free throw the entire night. Just a tough loss. They beat Florida State, 75-69. And he's looking around. Nope, Hunter Tyson breaks his clavicle. There's your best player gone. All right, you're going to first game without him. You go to Georgia Tech. You got a chance at the end, and you turn it over, 69-64 loss. And then just recently, take on North Carolina, Armando Bacot. They finally call some fouls on them. Fouls out. Up, North Carolina hits a shot at the buzzer, sends the OT. Up, they beat you in overtime. You get a chance in overtime, get a good look. PJ Hall just misses the layup.
Mm-hmm.
This is pain. This is the curse of winning 2 national championships in football.
Yes, it is.
Hold our souls in 2016. And men's basketball again. They beat North Carolina first time ever, and the world shuts down.
Yep.
3 weeks later. This team is cursed at some point. So I just love to watch them play ACC games, and their next couple of games are Duke, Notre Dame, at Florida State, their next 3 games. Pain. I'm ready to see them lose in brand new ways.
Yeah.
This year. I thought losing on having a technical because you had 6 guys on the court was bad enough, but there have been some worse ones, I feel like. Come in recent weeks that just hurt. Another one we have to talk about, the Tony Bennett. What a job to get Virginia kind of back in the conversation for the NCAA tournament. Because remember, they started the year, they lost to Navy first game of the year, get smacked by Houston, and then lost to James Madison on the road as well. And this was a team, and then of course lost to Clemson early, pretty bad. So this was a team that was before the year was like, this was not a good Virginia team. But since then, they kind of turned it around. They still have, of course, big losses to North Carolina, Wake Forest, and NC State, but they've rallied off 3 straight wins and came close to beating Notre Dame. So this is a team, the back half of their schedule, they have Georgia Tech, but then they have to go to Virginia Tech, go to Miami, host Duke, host Florida State, and go to Louisville. It's a tough end to the season, but if they can win a majority of those and maybe make a run in the ACC tournament, I think you got to give some credibility back to Virginia. Get them back into the tournament. Also, a game I talk about, Auburn. My team's been hanging on by a thread. Almost lost to Missouri, who I say is the worst team in all of basketball. And they almost lose to Georgia, who's probably the second worst team in all of basketball.
Yeah.
and then they run to Arkansas, who is the second best team in the SEC, and Arkansas ends up almost blowing it. Arkansas wins it. It's the greatest last shot I've ever seen in a basketball upset, where Arkansas gets the steal and the dunk that should have counted because it looked cool. But, the dunk, the lights go off, are flashing like crazy. People are storming Clark. Eric Musselman has his shirt off. He's in a sling for some reason. I don't know when that happened. But in Arkansas, big-time upset for them. So looking at it, if I had to pick a Final Four for men's basketball, it's kind of hard to pick because there are some teams that look really good for those big games, like Duke, like Auburn, like I think Alabama still. Now, they've lost to Kentucky and Auburn the past few weeks, but I think Alabama still gets up for the big games. But for the lower games, they kind of sleepwalk into. Yeah. I think if I had to pick a Final Four, and you can think of one real quick, I think my Final Four right now would be Duke, Gonzaga, because they haven't lost since the Duke game. And again, you can talk about their schedule and all that stuff, but they played BYU Saturday night and put it on the Cougs, on the road, which that's a tough place to play. Kentucky, I think Kentucky, with Calipari, they've gotten it back together. Now, of course, they still got Arkansas and Auburn to deal with. And then I think looking for that fourth team, man, it's kind of hard to pick one. But I think Kansas right now.
Yeah.
Kansas or UCLA. Because UCLA, however, said that it took 3 overtimes when they lost to Arizona State. But Kansas, man, again, they had that loss to Kentucky to look bad, but they put it on Baylor. And I think they're going to be a dangerous team. So if I had to pick a Final Four, I'd say that. Houston, I think I'd consider. Haven't seen a whole lot from them because of the Americans, not that great of a conference this year. The Big East, everybody's beating each other up in the Big East. Yeah. I think that's going to hurt somebody. And then I think SEC, you still got Auburn, but Auburn just really hasn't looked consistent when they got the number 1 ranking. And Alabama is either going to play themselves out of the tournament completely, or they're going to get there as like a 5 seed, and they're going to be that team that gets upset in the first round by someone who has no business beating them.
Yeah. Excuse me. If I had to pick one, I'll put Duke in there just, with the hope and pray that they can make it all the way there. And I'll go Gonzaga too. It's kind of clear cut 2 right there. I'll put Purdue in as 3.
Okay.
With them being 20-3 and in the Big Ten, they played well, and they've been. I think they're won like 6 or 7 in a row right now. If they can get hot and come out of the Big Ten, we've seen it happen in years past where they've had really good teams. So I think they can make it down there. And then I'm going to throw a wild card out there. The team that just beat Kansas the other night, Texas, led by Chris Beard, former guy who was at Texas Tech, took them all the way to the national title. I was impressed with what Texas did against Kansas the other night. So, excuse me. I'll go Texas as my last one. This is kind of a wild card. Some teams to watch out for that are, smaller schools. Providence is 20-2 on the year.
Yeah.
Houston also 20-2. Somebody that can rival Gonzaga. St. Mary's is 19-4. You never know what can happen there. And Murray State, not obviously without John Morant now, is 22-2 on the year, sitting at number 23 in the rankings right now. So just some smaller teams to watch out for as well.
I think Texas Tech is another team to look out for.
Yeah.
Of course, they've been playing well this year, and if they can, I think they beat Kansas at home. Kansas beat them at Fog Allen, so that could possibly be your Big 12 championship for sure down the road. So that's it's gonna be insane to see. So I think it's wide open for sure. I think there's a bunch of players that can just that can just upset anybody. I think St. Mary's is ranked now too, and they could upset Gonzaga's hopes as well and some higher seeds. I think Furman is another team I would look at in the SoCon. Someone usually comes out of the SoCon and does something in the tournament. Furman and Chattanooga, I think, are your top 2 teams right now. Which, by the way, North Carolina, we got to talk about them a little bit. Their best win of the season might be Furman, because they have not beaten a lot of really good teams this year. I think they're still a tournament team. I don't know what they're going to do when they get there,
Right.
But it's going to be interesting. Another team that's just went final. Wake Forest has won 20 games this year.
Yeah.
They just beat NC State, who's looked pretty good for the most part this year. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the ACC has played itself back to contention for multiple bids. But yeah, it's going to be insane to see what happens in the NCAA tournament. Could be a lot of fun. Tennessee too.
Yeah.
It's up and down. That'll be crazy to see. But we'll look and see. Of course, top 5 games this weekend. For me, I'll start. I think Saturday. I think I just mentioned them. Furman and Chattanooga. They play each other on Saturday. That's for first place in the SoCon. I think the SoCon is one of those mid-major leagues that's really good. Of course, a few years ago, Wofford made that run where they beat Seton Hall and almost beat Kentucky in the second round. So I think you got to watch out for Furman and Chattanooga for sure. Tonight, Thursday night, Purdue goes to Michigan. Michigan needs to keep their head above water, needs to keep going, but this is a good Purdue team. And so that'll be interesting to see what they can do. Texas is at Baylor. This is one of those where one of those teams could break away from each other in this rivalry. St. Mary's goes to Gonzaga. That's a tough place to play. Gonzaga has the longest home winning streak in the country, which is insane. And I think the streak just got broken. The Liberties did. But 2 schools with the longest winning streaks at home in the country are Gonzaga and Lincoln Memorial in men's basketball, which is crazy to think about. And Liberty had the 3rd longest one. Theirs just got broken. I think they lost to Jacksonville State last week. And then UCLA is at USC on Saturday. UCLA needs to try to rebound from that loss to Arizona State, which was a wild game that was played late into the night. USC, another team in the Pac-12, they can maybe make some noise. Anytime I see USC ranked, I just think about OJ Mayo. And, man, what happened to him?
Yeah.
He with so much promise, gets to the NBA and does nothing.
Yeah.
So, I just think about that. But yeah, UCLA USC rivalry game, probably another Bill Walton game. But
Yuck.
Just mute it and see the good plays.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, those are my big 5 men's basketball games this week.
Mine, I'm gonna go tonight, Thursday night. Duke is at Clemson. We'll see. It'd be interesting to see what Duke's going to do coming off that loss to UVA. And obviously we know how up and down Clemson has been, but I feel like this is a game that Clemson always gets up for. So, Clemson welcoming in Duke to Little John is always going to be tough. It's never a cakewalk for Duke, but we'll see how they respond for that one. Also, Friday night on FS1 in the Centos Center in Cincinnati, Ohio, Xavier, who's ranked number 25, is hosting number 24 UConn. So 2 teams, that will be looking to make a bid for the NCAA tournament down the stretch. Play at 7:00 that night. That should be a really good one. That Texas Baylor game at noon on ESPN on Saturday is going to be great at Baylor. But I want to look ahead to Tuesday of next week, February 15th. Super Tuesday's got some really, really good matchups. Wake Forest is going to be at Duke at 7:00 on ESPN. So, that's going to be crazy. Yeah. Villanova is going to Providence on CBS Sports Network at 8:00 on Tuesday. And also Kentucky is at Tennessee at 9:00 on ESPN. So your ESPN doubleheader is Wake Forest at Duke and Kentucky at Tennessee. That's going to be a great 4 hours of basketball.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be crazy for sure. Good basketball weekend. We'll go to the women's games as well. South Carolina just keeps kind of rolling along.
Yeah.
Person we got to talk about too, Caitlin Clark. I don't know if you've seen her from Iowa, just pulling up from step range like it's nothing.
Yeah. She's unreal.
Made Iowa back to a contender again. Of course, after losing Megan Gustafson and all of them, they kept it going with her. It's just an unreal player as Caitlin Clark for sure. There was one clip, I think it was early in the year, she hits one from the logo at Iowa and just kind of does the Jordan shrug.
Yeah.
It's insane to think about. But yeah, she is unreal player for sure, and that's just a player to keep an eye on. Some women's games, I think this weekend they're big. I'm going to start D2, Catawba and Carson Newman. That's for second in the SAC right now. Carson Newman won the first meeting in Salisbury. Catawba beat Carson Newman into the tournament in Mossy Creek last year, so that's going to be a big time game for both of these teams. Thursday, Georgia's at LSU. I think Georgia's got a pair of good games because they also are hosting South Carolina on Sunday. And that would kind of move Georgia forward, I think, and give them some more talk. They can get those two big wins over two big-time coaches for LSU and South Carolina and two big programs. Oklahoma's at Texas on Saturday. That's a big rivalry game. And Sunday, this is legit going to be a really fun one. Notre Dame at Louisville, an ACC game. Notre Dame kind of separate themselves, but that's going to be a big-time contest for sure.
I'll start mine off with Lander at the D2 level. Lander is hosting North Georgia on Saturday. And if you don't know anything about this game, you need to educate yourself because I have so much animosity towards Georgia. I will go on record and tell you legit right now to your face that I hate North Georgia with every fiber of my being. I cannot stand them. I'm sure they're all great people. Don't care for them. North Georgia right now is still the number 6 team in the country. Lander, I can't remember what they are. I think they're like 7, but top 10 caliber matchup in D2. These two teams have already met once this year at North Georgia, with Lander taking the L 69-68. This has been such always. It's been a battle for years. And if you take it back to last year Lander won the Southeast Regional crown on North Georgia's home floor. And we were there. It was crazy. And then the years back when I was in school, it was always North Georgia. It was us in North Georgia for the past, I think my senior and my super senior year. And I got my heart broken by North Georgia so many times. But this is the premier matchup in the PVC and the Peach Belt Conference. And they're going to do battle in Finest Horn Arena on Saturday at 1:30. And I am so excited. I cannot wait to watch this game. Obviously, Lander missing their best player. Micah Parsons tore her ACL. She's out for the year. So it is going to be a challenge. But without Parsons, Lander has not skipped a beat. They have been playing very well since she went down. She went down back on January 15th. And they have not lost. Well, technically they lost a forfeit game because of COVID stuff, but have not lost an actual game. They played, beat Georgia Southwestern, went to Flagler, always a tough place to play down in Florida, won by 14, murdered Young Harris, murdered USC Aiken, holding them to 36 points, while Lander scored 83. And they eked out a win over Augusta tonight by about 9 or 10, but Lander shot 42 free throws tonight. This is tonight, as of when we're recording, Wednesday night. But Saturday is going to be massive against North Georgia. I cannot freaking wait to be there. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, sure. That's going to be a big time game for sure. Really big games. Kind of getting ready for those region rankings soon too to come out. I think for right now it'd be Lander or Wingate would be first right now based on how it's been going. Probably Lander gets a slight edge since they have those bigger wins and top 10, but we'll see what happens after that North Georgia game too. So it's going to be huge. North
Georgia coming off a loss too. North Georgia did lose last week to Southwestern. So as far as the Peach Belt Conference, it's wide open.
Yep. Sac right now. Wingate's got the lead right now. They've only lost 2 games all year. Lost at the very beginning of the year to UNC Pembroke, or Princess Mary, excuse me. And then rattled off 19 straight for losing to Newberry on the road. And so, but they're a really good team at Wingate right now. So, interesting to see. After having a down year last year, really good. But looking ahead, of course, that's going to be a lot of big women's basketball weekend. Looking at the NBA, of course, the Grizzlies keep on rolling. Big win last night. And John Morant, All-Star starter. I think Desmond Bain is in the Rising Stars Challenge game. So that's a lot of fun to see for him and seeing a lot of guys get kind of looked at that really kind of get overlooked. Of course, he really only had one kind of big trade so far. And what are the Sacramento Kings plans for the future?
I couldn't tell you. They're cursed. You said it best.
They get the Aaron Fox out of there, please, because Yeah, they gave up Tyrese Halliburton, who's one of their best young players. I mean, they got Domantas Sabonis, who's fine,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't see what your plan is if you're the Kings. Right?
Yeah.
At any point, I don't think they don't know what the plan's been for the past 10 years. At any point,
Yeah.
they had Buddy Hield for years, and I guess they were hoping he would develop into something, and he just kind of didn't. And they got rid of him, but still a solid player. But now, of course, you have Marvin Bagley on your team. You got De'Aaron Fox, but then you have Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, Domantas Sabonis, and then Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes. And then Alex Len. That's your team, basically, and a whole bunch of guys I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Kings' plans are at all because I feel like they don't have one. And they like I said, they haven't had one in a while. So that's interesting. Also, going to be interesting to see Lakers 26 and 29. They're still in the play-in games right now. Behind the Clippers, who I feel like the Clippers have been just bad all year, and now the Lakers are behind them.
And you want to bring all that. You want to bring all that talent to the Lakers, and you can't even get over the standings in the Clippers.
Yeah, and they're just barely ahead of the Pelicans, who just had, by the way, CJ McCollum going to the Pelicans, which that's a big time. Also, it kind of makes you wonder what the Blazers' plans are going to be. Are the Blazers just going to blow it up and start over? James been hurt most of the year.
Don't sleep. The Pelicans picked up Tony Snell. Don't sleep on Tony Snell.
28 points in 28 minutes, 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, no shots. That
is the recipe for a championship in New Orleans.
No fouls. Just went out there to have exercise and fresh air.
He just went out there to run around for 28 minutes. like a kid at kindergarten recess.
Exactly. Going back to the Grizzlies, they sit now 4 games ahead of the Jazz or 3.5 games, ahead of the Jazz for third place, and about 3.5 games back of the Warriors.
Yeah,
we're in second. Phoenix Suns are first, 44-10 in the West, and of course you have Jazz at 4th, Mavs at 5th, Nuggets 6. Your playing games would have Timberwolves at 7, Clippers at 8, Lakers at 9, Pelicans at 10. Blazers on the outside looking in by about a game and a half. The Spurs behind them, who I feel like serves a little bit of the Spurs. Still 20-34. The Kings 20-36, Thunder 17-36, and the Rockets 15-39. Again, we have no clues on the rosters for the Thunder. Rockets.
No idea. As far as the Eastern Conference goes, I want to shed some light on this. The number one seed right now in the Eastern Conference is the Miami Heat. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't watched JJ Redick on First Take the other day with Stephen A. Smith, all the talk is about Brooklyn this, Brooklyn that, Brooklyn this, which is obviously headline, star players, things aren't going well, Harden wants out. It is news, but JJ Redick said it best. He said, Stephen A., you and I have sat here and argued for 30 minutes, and we have not talked at one time about the Heat, the best team in the East, which is the problem. And they are the best team as it stands right now. They've been playing really good basketball. Somebody needs to talk about them. But the Heat sit at 35-20. Bucks are right on their heels at 35-21. Bulls still playing pretty well. They're 5-5 in their last 10, so a little bit of a little parity there. But 33-21, tied with the Cavs, who are still playing pretty well. 33-21. 76ers 32-22. Joel Embiid still playing fantastic basketball. And just the whole Ben Simmons thing still just perplexes me. It's ridiculous how much money he is just giving up on. Got to figure something out with him. Raptors at 6, 29-23. Boston at 7, 31-25, which that threw me for a loop that the Raptors have less wins, but they're ahead of the Celtics in the standings because the Celtics have more losses, which is crazy. Brooklyn sitting at the 8 seed, obviously a lot of turmoil there. They've
lost 9 games in a row.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
2 to the Celtics the other night.
Yeah,
28-2, and Kyrie can't play half your games.
Yeah, they're only a game and a half of the Charlotte Hornets, if that puts it in perspective for
Charlotte's
you.
lost 5 in a row.
Right. And Atlanta is at the 10th spot, 26-28. And then on the outside looking in, the Wizards, trash, Knicks, trash, Pacers, really trash. And then the ultimate trash, the Magic and the Pistons.
Hey, the Magic passed the Pistons, though.
They did.
Next to last, because the Pistons have lost 5 in a row.
Lost 5 in a row, so.
I'm going to be honest. I think, is Cade Cunningham, does he play for the Pistons?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this roster.
It's bad.
Yeah. It's Cade Cunningham and the Kelly Olynyk. Oh, God, Kelly Olynyk. What a fall.
They got Luka Garza from Iowa.
Hey, and then they got Hamidou Diallo.
Yeah.
All right. And then Frank Jackson. And I don't know, seeing Sadiq Bey on the roster doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. I'm sorry.
No.
That does not a whole lot. If you're wondering why I look surprised, Villanova women's basketball just beat UConn on the road, 72-69.
Very nice.
Good win for the Nova Wildcats on the road. Anyway, continuing.
Ew, I didn't know that Kelly Olynyk was on this Pistons team.
Yeah.
And they're also coached by Dwayne Casey. Man, help this man. He won Coach of the Year in Toronto, and they got rid of him, and they sent him across the Canadian-U.S. border to Detroit to die. It's ridiculous. You can't treat a man like this.
The Raptors, I kind of want to look at their roster because I feel like they are always quietly good. They still have Precious Achiuwa, OG Anunoby. Okay. Goran Dragic. That's where Goran Dragic ended up. Toronto. I feel like we talked about this. Pascal Siakam. Fred VanVleet, of course. Yuta Watanabe. That's a Memphis Grizzlies legend. Yuta Watanabe.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it.
I got a random question. Who is the highest paid player on the Detroit Pistons right now? Just take a guess.
I kind of want to say Kelly Olynyk, but I don't.
It's not. It's not. Now, Kelly Olynyk is the second highest paid player on this team, which is bad enough in itself.
Is Josh Jackson on this team?
He is, but no, he's not the highest paid.
I can't.
He makes a smooth $5 million to do nothing.
Jeez.
It's Jeremy Grant, which if Jeremy Grant is fine, but if he's your highest paid player, like you got problems, man. You got so many problems.
You know a team that's just going to be in the dumps. They are the Browns of the NBA. That's the New York Knicks, because they did pretty good things last year, got to the playoffs, and this year started off pretty good too. Of course, we've all seen the side talk videos where they're getting so hyped up as the ever. And boy, it was dumb because they're 24-31, and they keep losing stupid games.
Yeah,
but they got Cam Reddish. They got Obi Toppin. They got Kemba, who's just kind of falling off the face of the earth.
And Julius Randle.
Yeah. RJ Barrett. I forgot they have Ryan Arcidiacono.
They got players. They got names. They just can't translate them to wins.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have older guys like Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson.
Yeah.
On there. And Alec Burks, who at least you'd hope would teach them. But, yeah. And then Tom Thibodeau, I don't think is a bad coach. It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't finish. The job. You know. Julius Randle a ton of money. Good lord.
I just really your favorite player of all time plays for the Heat, Kyle Guy.
Oh, great. Thanks, man. And I mean, he got shut down by Gardner Webb. I just want everybody to remember that. He had 7 points and 5 of them for the free throw line.
It's wild to me that Victor Oladipo is on this roster and he makes the exact same amount of money as Markieff Morris. That just doesn't sound right.
It really doesn't. Oh man, yeah. So yeah, that does it for the NBA. So hopefully the Grizz can keep this going. Of course, next week's the All-Star stuff. Next Saturday, February 19th.
Love it.
Should be a lot of fun. That's gonna be the busiest day of my life at Carson Newman. We have so many sports going on. So hopefully I get to see some of it at least. See all that stuff for sure. We'll wrap up with best play saw this week. I don't know if you've seen this, but of course the Olympics are going on with all this stuff, but also the Winter X Games are doing some stuff too. And I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah.
Dev Powell is a snowboarder, was on his third run on I think it was like a ramp trick shot type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on the top and he's sitting there getting ready and he's calling for somebody. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And he calls for one of his friends who's also on a snowboard to go down to the bottom next to the ramp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And at first I thought he was going to jump over him while he was underneath the ramp. I'm like, okay, that seems kind of weird. Or maybe he's going to throw him something or something, whatever. But then his friend goes next to the ramp and just lays down with his feet up in the air, kind of tilted the board up in the air. And Zeb Powell goes down the hill, misses the ramp completely.
Yeah.
Goes up this little hill and jumps off his snowboard and does a flip in the air. He's about maybe 3 feet from his head hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Does a flip and goes down the rest of the mountain. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's the dumbest thing I've probably ever seen. But Zeb Powell, I've never seen that before in my life. It's the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that the X Games have kind of fallen off in the past few years because I feel like it would be more talked about. But man, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen for sure. And that's definitely my play of the week.
All righty. For my play of the week, I'm going baseball at the Division II level. I'm going with Lander baseball as they took on Erskine College here, kind of the local rivalry here in the Greenwood, Abbeville County area. Lander baseball got a new player in this year. His name's Ian Jenkins, playing for the Bearcats. He's had a couple years at South Carolina, and then left South Carolina, went down to another like JUCO, and then has now come back and gotten back to Lander University. And in his very first at bat as a Bearcat, I want to say it was first pitch. I don't know if that's a fact or not, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Very first at bat, absolute nuke
Mm-hmm.
out of here, just making his presence known for Lander baseball. Lander baseball still trying to get back to how they were back in 2015, back when they last made the College World Series. And so this is a good start to the season. Now, they did drop a game to North Greenville, who's perennially one of the better college baseball teams in Division II. But Ian Jenkins getting his Bearcat career off to a hot start with a nuke. And also the video that we're putting up, peep the batting stance. The batting stance is so gas.
Yeah.
So gas. Just him like leaning back on it, and he just steps right into it and nukes that thing out of here. So props to Ian Jenkins. I guess I'm glad to have him as a Bearcat, and hopefully Lander baseball can capitalize on that, and he'll hit a ton of home runs this year, and Lander will be a really good team.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, of course, D2 baseball starting, softball starting. I got a shout out, of course, to another one. This is probably going to best play as well. But Mary Vandergriff, she works for the Eagle Sports Network doing video stuff. Hit her first career home run for Carson in softball.
Big time.
Having a freshman year cut short because of COVID, and then, of course, getting hurt last year and missing the entire season. Just hits an absolute missile to left field against Lise McCray. I'll probably splice that in here as well. But, yeah, that is going to do it for this week. Of course, next week, of course, this weekend, Super Bowl, biggest game of the year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, you got college basketball going on. And then we will talk to y'all to recap the Super Bowl, everything going on next week, and get you set. Going to be a lot of fun. And, don't forget, of course, we're going to put those links in the description. And, of course, on Facebook at Breakfast Time with Waffle and Richard, or on Twitter at or at Ricardo_knows to kind of see if you want to support the pod. And, of course, Home Field, if you want to support us, maybe we'll finally get Clemson shirts. Maybe they'll stop getting my rivals. If they didn't already have Florida State, but if they would have gone South Carolina, NC State, Florida State within 3 weeks, I don't know what I would have done.
You might would have had to unsubscribe.
I may have had to. If they were going like South Carolina, NC State, North Carolina, or something like that, I'm like, done. So
yeah. Since they are doing basketball, Duke has to be somewhere, right?
Duke has to be.
Right.
Duke's got to be, especially Coach K's last year.
Yeah.
They could. Big news Saturday, last game of the regular season, March 5th.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think
Maybe.
that'd be good.
Two quick things before we go. First thing is Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback in Tennessee. I'm just trying to tell everybody now, Aaron Rodgers will not be a Tennessee Titan. Stop it. It's not going to happen. Would it be great? Yeah, sure. How's it going to work? Somebody feasibly, knowledgeably explain to me how in the heck it's going to work. Stop it. Kyler Murray is also not going to be a Titan. Some idiot put up a post today saying, breaking NFL news, Tennessee Titans are in talks with Kyler Murray to make them their quarterback. They're going to trade Ryan Tannehill and like 2 first-round picks. Stop it. It's not going to happen. And some 12-year-old kid with 100 followers really got people with that. Do not believe everything you see on the internet, you naive idiots. Ryan Tannehill is here to stay whether you like it or not. And the second thing, the best thing I saw this week is this picture of Armando Bacot. He looks just like this guy from Mario. So, there you go.
And that's the show, everybody.
You've been listening to Breakfast Time with Waffle and Richard. Logos designed by Jen Perry. You can follow Richard on Twitter at Ricardo_knows or on Instagram at RNM1996. Catch up with Waffle at WaffDog on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on this Bearded Broadcaster production.